This is Glenn Hughes, the voice of rock, and you're listening to Music Mania.
You ready for some screaming heavy metal? We rock! But the evil that men do, then done. We gonna bang your head!
You are now listening to the Music Mania podcast, brought to you by CD Warehouse in Gladstone, the #1 hard rock podcast in the Midwest, featuring hard-hitting interviews with rock's living legends. And now, here's your host, Clint Schweitzer.
And we are off and running on another episode of the Music Mania podcast. I am your host, Clint Schweitzer, and we are reaching for the sky, shaking and tumbling, because this is a very special edition of the podcast. Going to be welcoming Firehouse guitarist Bill Leverty to the show. Criminally underrated as a player, and Firehouse is underrated as a band. Still out there today. They did 57 shows last year. They are as busy as ever, doing a lot of fly-ins. They have a show coming up with Bret Michaels, Warrant Dawkin, and Lita Ford. I'm going to be there in attendance for that at the Mid-America Center in Council Bluffs, Iowa. So looking forward to chatting with Bill about his latest solo venture. And if you want to go to his website, Leverty.com, you can check out 2 songs, Memorable and Love is Like a Song. You can, if you donate $1, Bill's going to give you 2 songs for the price of one. $1 gets you both songs, and Bill's going to send you those songs personally via email. So go check those out. Bill is a guy that he's put out 4 or 5 solo albums in addition to being in Firehouse, a band that, like I said, I've been a fan of for many years. I think that they get pigeonholed for a song like Love of a Lifetime, which is one of those indelible songs. It's one of those songs that's part of the fabric of America, as a ballad, but there's so much more than that. You think about songs like Reach for the Sky, Shake and Tumble, Rock on the Radio, Overnight Sensation. I'm just a big fan overall of what they do. It's good, straight ahead rock and roll, good feeling, good times rock and roll, and that's what Firehouse encapsulates to me. Guys, we always appreciate you downloading the show on Apple Podcasts or listening on YouTube. Always appreciate it, the interaction. Leave a comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Other guests you'd like to hear us interview, because the truth of it is, when it comes to this podcast, you've heard the songs. This is where you hear the stories. That's what we're about here. It's not about me giving you my top 10 drummers of all time or top 10 metal albums. This is about me interacting, making connections with these great guests, hearing their stories, letting them, tell their tales of stardom and ups and downs of being in the music industry. And this is so important. A guy like Bill Leverty, we've talked about this for 2 years. This interview is literally 2 years in the making. Finally, we're able to make it work. He's been working on the solo album, and he finally emailed me and said, you know what? It's time. I'm ready to do this. He's got the 2 songs on his website right now, so go to Leverty.com and follow him at Leverty. Firehouse is all over the place. They're going to be, if they hit your neck of the woods, definitely go check them out this summer. They're always a good time. And before we get to that interview with Bill, I want to urge you to check out CD Warehouse in Gladstone, Missouri for over 22 years, a staple of the Northland. Buy, sell, and trade CDs, DVDs, vinyl, and more. Hit up Randy Ringer, the owner. Tell him Music Mania Podcast sent you, and he will give you a discount, or it's on us. Pleasure here on the Music Mania Podcast to welcome this week's guest, Bill Leverty, guitarist from Firehouse. Bill, it is so good to hear from you. Glad we were finally able to make this work, man. How's everything going?
Doing great, man. Hey, breathing air and pumping blood. Can't complain.
Wow, that just summed it up. That's great. I have a whole new outlook on my weekend now, thanks to that, Bill. That's great stuff, man. It's great to hear from you. I tell you what, this has actually been in the works for a couple years now, man. We've talked just intermittently through email about doing this interview. The chickens have come home to roost. It's happening. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we have been threatening this for a long time. If it didn't take me so long to finish an album, and now that I'm 90% done, it'd be great to talk to you about it. That last 10% may take longer than the first 90%, because I still have that last song that I haven't written yet, and who knows how long that'll take until I get the one that I go, okay, that's worthy of putting the time into it. But I got 9 of them done now. I just put out 2 songs, and they're available on my website, Leverty.com. And I'm doing a 2-for-1 deal, so you buy one, you get one free.
This is awesome, and you sent me these. I still got to donate my $1. You sent me these songs. I'm a huge fan. I love your work, but on your website, Leverty.com. You can go there right now, and you can donate $1 or more, preferably more, I would say, and you can get these. You can get both songs, and you'll send them to the people yourself. Is that how this works? Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. I do it myself, and it's all done in-house, and there's no iTunes or Amazon or anything like that on these songs. Eventually they'll get up there, but it'll be months before the album's done, and that's when I'm going to put these up there. And, these are, I feel like I really put a lot of time into these songs and my heart and soul, and Michael Foster came over here and played drums on them. Michael Foster's the drummer for Firehouse. He did a bang-up job. I mean, just a amazing job playing drums on them, and I'm real happy with the way they turned out.
Well, this is your first solo album, I believe, since Drive came out in 2013, which is kind of a collection of covers that you did, songs that influenced you growing up, which I really love that covers album. But, it's, just kind of talk about the process and what it's like, because, I mean, obviously you're always busy with Firehouse. You guys tour constantly, but to be able to take the time and have the energy left to still focus on a solo career and to do things that are more gratifying for you, just kind of talk about that and how that is for you and how you find time to do it, first of all.
Well, man, I appreciate you saying that and asking that, because it's a lot of people wouldn't really understand that. But when you fly out on, you wake up at 3 a.m. to catch the 6 a.m. flight on a Friday morning to fly to Atlanta to change planes to then, fly to the next place and then get in a van and drive for 3 hours and then set up, do a sound check, go back, get dinner, go get a shower, go out, play. And then you get back in your room at 2 a.m. and you got to get up at 3 a.m. to do the same thing on the Saturday night, and then you get up at 3 a.m. to drive back to fly home. You are dead for a few days, and then it's kind of repeat the cycle the following Friday. We're doing the weekend warrior kind of deal with our band, where we play mostly weekends. So during the week, once I recover, I go down and I work in my studio, and if I have something to work on myself, I do that. If not, I have some other work from some other people that ask me to help them, and I work on their stuff. So that's my moonlighting gig. And of course, I'm also number one priority in life is I'm a father and a husband, and so I do that. But the time that's left, I try to work on writing and recording my own stuff, and that's kind of what takes a long time for me to get a side project album done, because it is side project. It's not my main thing. I don't tour on my stuff. Firehouse is the touring band, and this is just fun recording stuff to try to keep writing music and putting out what makes me feel good.
Well, how important is it for an artist, specifically a guitarist, to keep the creative juices flowing? This kind of got me thinking. I was watching the film A Hired Gun on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but just kind of talking about
it's a great movie.
Isn't it? It's awesome. And of course, that what got me thinking about that is, though, a lot of these people, it's kind of a choice you have to make sometimes. Personal gratification versus finding that a steady gig. You kind of have maybe the flexibility to do both, to be able to have a band that's steady and that's been there and done that, but how important is that just for the creative side of what you do? Because a lot of people don't realize, just for a guitarist, just getting that creativity out and getting something on tape and just playing, that's got to be important for you.
It is important, and Firehouse last year did 57 shows, which was a good year for us. We always want more, but that was a good year for us. And I practice a lot during the week, so I just practice and practice and practice. And when you're practicing and just kind of noodling around, and things, you come up with things. Your fingers do things that they didn't do before, and you go, hey, I kind of like that. Maybe that's something I can work on. And so I'll record that little idea. And then you go to bed, and while you're laying in bed there thinking about stuff, all of a sudden lyrical ideas will come to you, and you just write them down. I've got my iPhone next to me. I'll hum the lyrical idea, and unfortunately wake my wife up, but I do it anyway. And then, at the end of once you got a little pile of ideas, you go through and see which ones are really sticking with you, and you go and you dig into them and see if there's anything there. So it's a great way to kind of to get better, and that's what I always try to do, is become a better guitar player, a better singer, a better songwriter, a better engineer, and a better producer. And it's the great thing about this music business is that you can't get good enough. You're never going to be, I'm never going to be the kind of musician like Steve Morse or somebody who is just a maestro musician. But that's what keeps me going and trying. It's guys like him who are so good that make me go, if I just keep practicing, maybe one day. So I really like to be inspired by people like that, and it keeps me motivated.
Well, you talk about playing 57 shows last year. I know you got, at least on the website right now, I think 16 going through the summer, including one this weekend at the Cherokee Resort Event Center in Cherokee, North Carolina. You just talk about what that says and the fact that maybe Firehouse, it seems like each year you're more in demand and more shows, and you see you guys pop up on more bills and with a lot of great bands and so many great shows. I mean, I saw you guys, I think it was 2 years ago down at the Lake of the Ozarks here in Missouri with Warrant and Dawkin. It was an awesome show. You guys are always out there. What does that say about, though, the legacy of this band that you guys, stay busy and the shows keep rolling in? That's a great thing, isn't it?
Well, I think we're really lucky is the bottom line, and we're really grateful that our fans are sticking with us this long, and that we have songs that have touched them emotionally in some way, and they want to hear them again, and they want to come out and party with us and kind of celebrate it with us. We're going down this weekend, like you said, to Cherokee, North Carolina. We fly into Asheville, North Carolina. We drive about an hour and a half into Cherokee, North Carolina, and play that venue. And we're opening up for Bret Michaels, who, he's such a great. I mean, it's a great band, and he's the best front man in the business. So getting to go out and see his band is kind of an education for us as well. So we get out there and we play our set. We go dry off, and then we get to be schooled by Brett and the boys. So it's great. I mean, we are really lucky because I think there is a resurgence of bands of our genre and our the decade of bands that we were a part of. People want to come out and see these bands live, and we're really thankful that we can still do this for a living.
Yeah, and to me, a lot of this started, I mean, I was at the original Rocklahoma in 2007, and seeing you guys, I believe, on the Saturday of that it still sticks out in my mind, because that was it just kind of was a symbolic renaissance. It had been going on. I'd seen you guys a couple of years earlier with Cinderella and Quiet Riot. I mean, you guys have been around, but it's just so great, because for me, as such a fan of the genre, and for me, not to talk down on the gig coming up in Cherokee. I know that's kind of a hometown show for you guys, but coming up here at the Mid-America Center in Iowa, I'm going to be there. You talk about opening for Bret Michaels and Warrant, Dawkin, Lita Ford. What a show that's going to be in Firehouse. I mean, I'm looking forward to that. I'm driving up for that, Bill. I'm going to be there.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. It's going to be like a festival. You got so many bands that are legends, and we get to jump in and play with them. And we just feel like it's like we just feel so lucky. All those bands are great. I mean, Warrant has never sounded better. I don't think they're such a great band. Like we said, Brett's band, and then Lita, she's awesome. I mean, she's got such a great band. I mean, she put together an incredible band, and they're all great people. Who else are we on that bill with? I forgot.
Dawkins, the last one. Yeah.
Oh well, there you go. There's another legend. So if how many times did I play under lock and key and try to learn those songs, and I was just so inspired by everything they did, and now we've become friends. Don he's just awesome. He still sounds great. He looks great, and the band's great, and so being a part of that gig is awesome. And I wish it was a tour where we were playing with all those bands every night. But after that, it's kind of like a one-shot deal for the fans and for us, because after that show, we all fly home, and then we all have the week off, and then we fly out somewhere else the next weekend, and whether we're with any other bands or we're headlining or whatever, we don't know. But I don't know at the moment. But it's really kind of a different model than it was when we were hit it really hard back in the early 90s, where we had the bus and we were out on tour with Tesla, let's say, and we played with them for 9 months. Now it's, this weekend we're with this band, and this weekend we're just with us, and then the next weekend we're with a different band, and it kind of makes it, more challenging in a way, because, everything's different. But that's what we kind of like, too, is the spontaneity of what music is.
Well, you talk about being different. I've always seen Firehouse as different. Maybe it's because you guys, I know you're from Virginia, but the band was formed in Charlotte, North Carolina in kind of the mid-'80s. Just talk about the musical scene kind of in the southeast area where you grew up in and coming up as a band in. A lot of your counterparts, a lot of the bands that we're talking about that you're playing with, they were from L.A. They went to L.A. They formed their identity there, but not you guys. Just kind of talk about your upbringings coming up in that scene and what the musical scene was like in Charlotte at the time.
Well, I feel like it was a great music scene. There were so many bands, so many really talented players and really talented songwriters, and lots of venues to play up and down the mid-Atlantic coast. And, we would hop in a van and drive for 11 hours, west into western Tennessee to play a gig. So that and each one of us would make $5 a day for food, but we did it because we wanted to make it, So I don't really know how to compare it to the LA scene. We didn't really get a taste of the LA scene until we had an independent deal where we got to record our songs, and Dana Strum and Mark Slaughter produced our. It was a record at the time, and it kind of turned into a demo because we got signed to Epic, and Epic wanted us to re-record all the songs. But so we spent a little bit of time out there in LA when it was kind of peaking with that scene, and that scene was incredible because on Sunset Strip you had 4 or 5 clubs right there where you could play a gig, and then a bunch of other clubs within a 30-minute drive where you could play a gig. So it was kind of all about, where you could be playing at the time. And when, things got a little bit more challenging as time went on, and businesses, that wanted to have live entertainment were struggling a little bit. Some of them changed their model to not play, have live music, or maybe not have our genre. So the scene kind of really suffered a little bit, but the fans are still out there, and the fans still want to hear good time rock and roll, and that's what we want to. That's what we want to bring.
That's what I've always seen Firehouse as. How do you feel about the fact, and this is something that happens with any band that has a hit. You guys reached number 3, of course, with Love of a Lifetime. It's a song that it's part of our nomenclature. It's part of the fabric of American music. It's definitely, I've never been married, so I've never had to play it at a wedding or anything, but I've heard it at many weddings, obviously. Just talk about that song and kind of how you feel about it, because the band is so much more than that. You look at the debut, songs like Rock on the Radio, Shake and Tumble, Overnight Sensation. It's such a hard-driving rock band, and yet you have a ballad like that took off, and it certainly doesn't define the band, but just kind of talk about, kind of the diversity of those situations.
Well, we always loved a little bit of everything, with the exception of a few things, not people in the band, but there's a few things that we don't really care for. But our blinders were off kind of at a younger age, where we like slow tempo stuff, we like fast tempo stuff, and we like half-assed tempo stuff. So we liked it all, and we liked the diversity of heavier and kind of lighter stuff, and we liked love songs, and we liked, breakup songs, and we liked, all that stuff. So, the fact that Love of a Lifetime was as big a hit for us as it was, great. I mean, I still look at it as like, wow, we really got lucky with that one. I mean, we got lucky at first when Shake and Tumble was a hit at Metal Radio, and they didn't even release it as a single to Rock Radio, and they realized, the record company realized that they had something, so they released Don't Treat Me Bad. That broke into the top 20, or top 15, I think, and then they put out Love of a Lifetime, and and the album went double platinum. And then, the next record we put out, Reach for the Sky, which was in the top 40. MTV played it one time, and it still went in the top 40. And then we released When I Look Into Your Eyes, and that went into the top 10. I think it went to number 7 or something like that. So we do have a couple of ballads that we're known for. But, for that, we anything you can have in this business that is a success, you need to be really thankful for, because it's a tough business, and it's hard to get any songs to go, to break through and have people say, wow, I'd like to hear that again. So that's basically what happened.
Well, you guys were you won the award for the American Music Award for Best New Hard Rock Heavy Metal Band in 1991, and just kind of talk about the timing of that, because in the blink of an eye, things had changed so much after the release of the debut, and then Reach for the Sky comes out in 1992. But in the middle of that, things had changed so much, and it's like, what was the feeling throughout the band? Because here you guys have this, really successful debut and a very good follow-up, and you have this success, and you win this award. And just talk about how things changed, though, at that time, because it just, it's cliched to say, so many bands will say it, but the grunge just kind of blew everything out of the water. Is it as simple as that?
Well, it definitely happened on the rock side of radio. The rock stations stopped playing any bands that sounded anything like us, or any bands of our genre. Started playing bands that sounded like the grunge sound. And we still put out a third record, and we were watching all this happen. We put out a third record, and we had a top 30 hit with, I think it might have gone to like 25, with a song called I Live My Life For You. And so at a time when, radio wasn't playing any bands like us, we still, kind of goofed up and had a hit. So the problem was that rock radio wasn't playing it. And the record company wasn't behind the album at all. So we knew that the love was lost from Epic to Firehouse. So we knew we had to do something. So we realized that we had a little bit of action going on overseas with our album and with the song I Live My Life For You, and that's that third album. It's called Firehouse 3. So we went over to Southeast Asia probably 5 times in the course of a year or two, and played all these tours over in Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, Korea, of course Japan, which we'd been over there a couple times before, but broke into a lot of new countries over there that really liked our album, and kind of sustained the band at a time where we were really hurting over here in the States, but we had places to play over there. So that's kind of what kept us going.
Yeah, and it's just, to sit here and in 2018 and looking at what you guys have done and going forward, it's wonderful. I'm a huge fan of the band. Excited about this show coming up, but one thing that I always wonder is, you take a band like Firehouse that when you play these big shows and you get out there and you do a set, you got to get the hits in, you got to do a quick set, but yet it's the songs that the audience are probably more familiar with than any others, and you get this hard hitting 45-minute to an hour set in, and the audience is revved up. How do you compare that to when you play your headline shows and you get more time? And is there a difference there? Is it kind of like you prefer to be able to unveil more of your set list, or does it feel really good to get up there and get the audience going with the greatest hits, as they say?
Well, I really prefer being able to play longer. I think all of us do, because we have a lot of songs that are kind of the integrity of the band, or the uncovered part of the band that we want to expose the audience to, and that we have our hardcore fans out there who know some of the songs that weren't necessarily singles, but are, their favorite songs. So even when we do an hour set, and sometimes when we do a 45-minute set, with a 45-minute set, we've got most of the set kind of already written, because there's songs that we'd get in trouble if we didn't play. So we kind of got to play them. But with an hour, we can juggle in a couple of songs, at least one, usually 2 or so, that would be a little bit different than than what the singles would be. And then when we get to play an hour and a half, we get a bunch of those alternate kind of songs that we can throw in there and relax and have fun and do a lot of stuff without being kind of, looking at the clock and making sure we don't go over. Because you do tend to be frowned upon if you go over. You want to keep the show on time, and we don't want the band that is going on after us to get mad at us because somebody there's a curfew somewhere, and if you go late, that causes somebody to have to start cutting songs. And usually, when it's the bands above you that have to do that, they frown upon that.
Sure, absolutely. No doubt about that. Bill, so before we let you go, I was just kind of perusing through some of your influences on your website, and I love the diversity of this. I mean, you have guys, people listed like Stevie Wonder, Simon and Garfunkel, to Led Zeppelin, Ted Nugent, Kiss. But one that stuck out to me because he was just on the show a couple weeks ago is Michael Schenker, who's one of my favorite guitarists of all time. And I'm going out to see the Schenker Fest in Vegas in a couple weeks. Actually, a few days right before the show in Iowa that I'll be seeing you guys. I'm going to go catch Schenker Fest. So man, I'm glad you're a fan because I was like, that just struck a chord with me for sure. He's great, man.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, he was a huge influence on me, and that is actually Michael Schenker and UFO and the Michael Schenker group. The guy who produced those records, most of those records, is this guy Ron Nevison, and we chose Ron. I was a big advocate to get Ron to produce that record because of those UFO records. Now, Ron also produced an Ozzy record and the biggest Heart records and the Damn Yankees, and I mean, he's got just a huge list of bands that he produced. But what really made me want to work with him is that because of those UFO records, and I just wanted to get a little bit of that Michael Schenker magic to just kind of by osmosis get to me. I'm still working on that because that guy has a feel and a tone and a creative, that you don't really, that nobody else has. I mean, and he is definitely one of my top 5 favorite lead guitar players.
That's awesome. And they're doing this tour in the U.S. with all 3 MSG singers, Graham Bonnet, Gary Barden, and Robin McCauley, of course. I mean, this is awesome to see him back in the U.S., and I'm looking forward to that show. It's going to be a busy week for me. Check this one out. I got Styx and REO Speedwagon on one Saturday, Michael Schenker group in Vegas one day, and then in a third city in Des Moines, Iowa, I've got Firehouse, Warrant Duck, and Lita Ford, and Bret Michaels. So that's how I like to keep it. I'm not going to have this energy forever, so I got to get this out of the way.
It sounds like you're getting a lot of frequent flyer points, though.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I'm looking forward to it all, and I'll tell you what, we can't thank you enough for the time, and definitely want to talk again when the album's done, whenever that may be, and I look forward to just keeping in touch. And guys, you got to go to Leverty.com, and the songs are on there, available right now. It's memorable, and Love is Like a Song. Really good songs, good hooks, good guitar, what you'd expect from Bill Leverty, right? I mean, it's just what you'd expect from you, man. Great stuff.
Man, I sure appreciate it, Clint. Thank you so much.
Well, Bill, huge fan. I've been a fan really all my life of Firehouse and what you've done and your solo work and everything like that. So hoping to get up there and maybe say hello to you up at the show in Iowa coming up in a couple weeks. It'd be a true honor. So we'll work on that. Maybe we can make that happen, my friend.
That'd be awesome. Love to.
Bill, we'll be in touch, man. Thank you so much. Can't thank you enough. And best of luck. Have a great show this weekend, and we'll look forward to catching up with you here soon.
Thanks, brother.
You bet. Huge thanks to Bill for joining us to talk about his latest solo venture, which, again, you can check out on his website, Leverty.com. The 2 songs are really good. Memorable and Love is Like a Song makes me really anxious to hear what the rest of the album's going to sound like whenever he gets that finished. I know he's very busy touring with Firehouse. They do a lot of dates. And I'll tell you, underrated guitarist, really good player, and Firehouse is just a really good, solid rock band that, they play, they're always out there playing with a lot of bands. The show I'm going to be seeing them, they're going to be playing with Warrant and Dokken, Lita Ford, and Bret Michaels. So that's going to be a great show up in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Hope you guys, if you're in the Midwest, if you're in the area, can make it up to that one. It's a 10,000-seat venue. Going to be interesting to see the attendance of that one. I think there's going to be a really good crowd there. So very excited about that. Very excited about all the things coming up because winter's over. Spring is in the air. That means summer concerts. That means more outdoors time. That means more music and more fun outside with your friends and family. That's what it's all about. So we can't wait to go on this this journey with you throughout the summer. If you guys have any reviews, shows you went to, send them in. Send them to our email address, musicmaniapodcast@gmail.com, and we'd be glad to post them on our website. Always love interacting with the fans and people, like-minded people that are going to these shows and like taking pictures, like writing reviews. Hit us up, and we'd be glad to talk about it, and like I said, we'd be glad to post your review on our website if you send us that at musicmaniapodcast@gmail.com. Of course, our website, musicmaniapodcast.com. Check out all of our archive shows, all my reviews for the shows I've been to lately, and in the meantime, do not forget to join us next week because big guest coming up, Rick Rule, frontman from Every Mother's Nightmare, is going to be joining us. Really excited about that one. We got your back all spring and summer long here on the Music Mania Podcast. We will catch you next week.